Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Cameron Phillips. I'm a real estate advisor here in Vancouver with Engel & Volkers. And today I'm so excited to share with you a comprehensive strategy for home sellers in Vancouver. This is the guide to mastering the market in our shifting climate and the things that you need to know if you're thinking about selling your home here in Vancouver. Some of these tips you'll find that you may have heard before, but most of them have probably not been explained to you in this comprehensive of a level. So grab a coffee, grab a snack, let's sit down together and talk about the Vancouver housing market and how it impacts you as a home seller.
I'm Cameron Phillips. As a real estate advisor in Vancouver with Engel & Volkers, I work with discerning clients to help them achieve their real estate goals through excellence in marketing, global exposure, and 360 customer service. Together, let's explore Vancouver's dynamic market and go behind the scenes of some of the city's most sought-after properties.
Selling your home in Vancouver is a complicated process that can sometimes be really quick and easy, or sometimes it can be long, slow, arduous, and difficult. And that is simply a fact of the business. There's so many factors that come to play when you come to sell your house, and some of those factors we can't always control. The main one being who actually comes to the table to purchase your home. But today we're going to focus on the things that we can control, which is developing a comprehensive strategy to make sure that your property gets the right kind of exposure and promotion, preparation, as well as care being brought to the transaction so that everything happens professionally, smoothly, and very much by the book. For the past several years, our Vancouver market has been perilled by chronically low inventory. And even right now, we're at a very low point in our historical trend of home activity here in the Lower Mainland. Between 2022 and 2023, we have a minimal reduction in numbers, but the biggest drop came between 2021 and 2022. While home transactions are still happening, a lot of urgency has been taken out of the market given the high interest rate environment, as well as a heightened activity period in 2020 and 2021 that also took away a bit of that demand. So where does that leave us? That leaves us with a situation where inventory is still scarce in the Vancouver market, so sellers actually still have a good opportunity to get exposure and sales for their listings. We have not seen this flood of inventory on the market that would result in home price reduction yet. What we still lack is good supply. So if you have a home that comes to the market that is really well maintained or recently renovated or a super unique product, there is a great chance that it's going to move relatively quickly despite our slower market, just because of the scarcity of supply in our market. Everything that I do as a listing agent is to capitalize on this chronic low inventory that we frequently have in the Lower Mainland. Meaning that how can we make sure everybody who's thinking about buying a home, actively or passively, knows that this property is on the market and how it might be the perfect fit for them. So in today's video, we're going to talk a little bit about how we do those things so that you can take this advice to your realtor, or we can have a discussion in the future about how to make it happen for your property. So to kick off this guide, we're going to start by understanding the market trends that we experience here in Vancouver. And when I say Vancouver, just for the rest of this video, I'm referring primarily to downtown, Vancouver's west side, the North Shore, and West Vancouver. But this also applies to Burnaby, Richmond, Surrey, and the greater Vancouver area. However, it's always important to remember that each sub-zone within these districts has their own sub-market conditions. Even within downtown, there are differences between Yaletown, Cole Harbour, Mid-City, the West End, as well as Kitsilano, Point Grey, and also the product type makes a huge difference as well. So take everything I'm saying with a grain of generality. If we want to have a discussion around your specific property, it's a very different conversation to be had. The biggest trend that we see in Vancouver real estate is our pattern of seasonality, which is an inventory trend that basically bottoms out around December and then peaks in May, June, or July. Meaning that as we head into the spring market, which is generally late February, March, April, and May, we see the bulk of inventory come onto the market. This is really important because when more inventory comes to the market, this corresponds to more activity usually. People bring their homes on in the spring because that's when most people, most buyers are interested in interacting with the marketplace. So what we often see in Vancouver is this period of heightened activity that usually spans the springtime, and it's of course referred to as the spring market. We see a bump again in the fall, usually around August, September, and October, before things kind of cool down for the winter holiday months, November, December, and the first part of January. This seasonal pattern in Vancouver is very similar to other real estate markets around North America, but it's really important to leverage when you want to bring your house on the market. Bringing a house on the market going into a stale period where things slip and go cold might result in your listing going stale, which is never the right approach. Instead, it's important to think about the grand context of your life as well as your long-term decisions as to when you can bring that property on the market to make sure you're getting top dollar for your sub-market conditions. A trend that we've seen a lot in Vancouver recently is a lack of urgency, which makes marketing so much more important, which we'll discuss later on in this video. But it's really important to remember that as our market shifts year over year, there's different things happening at the governance level, between mortgage interest rates, between mortgage policy, tax policy. All these things are going to have an impact on the seasonality and on the analytics of your specific property. Whether you're talking about an 800 square foot condo downtown or we're talking about a 10,000 square foot mansion on the North Shore. All these different property types and locations are going to have different implications for different buyers that will result in a different strategy. So it's really important to know which submarket and which inventory type you are working with in order to make sure you get the strategy aligned for your property. One of my personal fortes in this business is getting sellers to understand the importance of optimizing your home for sale. I have a few different acronyms that I like to use to describe this. The first one is the 4 Ps. The 4 Ps speaks to a greater ideology of what can we do to your home before we bring it to market that's going to result in a better sale price, better curb appeal, better photos, better media, and ultimately a better transaction. The 4 Ps are paint, polish, prune, and prepare. Paint falls into the theme of doing small renovations. Paint is the cheapest and easiest way to make a home feel fresh, make a home feel new, make a home feel more neutral to allow a buyer to see themselves living there. Polish means deep cleaning everything, removing personal effects, all glass, all surfaces, baseboards, floors, things you don't usually clean. Everything needs to be polished because it really gives someone a different sense walking into a clean home versus walking into an averagely clean home. Prune. This is your outdoors, this is your landscaping, this is your curb appeal. When that car pulls up in front of the home, or when you, I guess if condo it's a little bit different, but if that car pulls up in front of your home and there's unkempt bushes and dirt and grass, it's not gonna present nearly as well as if you'd taken the time to actually prune and prepare. And our 4th item is prepare. This is the decluttering. This is the potential moving out and staging the home. This is removing personal effects. This is really editing down the home to make it look staged if staging is not in the question, and doing everything possible to make sure that our media is the best it can possibly be, making sure that the presentation for buyers coming through on showings and open houses is top notch. And for most people, they don't think about these things. Most people think that it's a matter of maybe cleaning once, getting some photos done and bringing it to the market. No, if you're serious about getting the best price for your home and having the best experience and the shortest timeline, then these things are critically important. The time and or money you'll invest in doing these optimizations for your home usually will pay back 2, 3, 4, or 5 times for you. It's very, very important to listen to your advisor, listen to the recommendations of what's going to get you the most bang for your buck, and conduct those improvements before coming to market. Now let's talk about strategic timing for your listing. Earlier I discussed the seasonality of our Vancouver market in terms of when it's actually right in the scope of a year to bring your home to market. But of course, everyone's situation is different. Sometimes there's an urgent need to sell that's going to require you to bring the home on the market in December during a historically slow time. That's fine, because if you're working with someone skilled, they're still going to be able to get you the most exposure and ultimately the most success for that home. But let's talk about strategic timing in terms of bringing together all the elements of a listing and presenting them appropriately. I like to make an orchestra analogy that usually helps people kind of understand the process. So let's imagine we have a large orchestra, a full symphony, and we're all sitting there, they're all sitting there, and there's violins, there's drums playing, there is a keyboard, a piano, French horns going off, tubas, and imagine if there was no conductor. And imagine if they couldn't read sheet music. So everything was reliant upon the conductor. You're gonna have a cacophony of random noises happening that's not gonna make a beautiful symphony. Instead, you're gonna have a lot of instrument noises that's probably not very pleasing to the ears. I see timing in terms of a listing as being the conductor to make sure that everything happens according to a timeline that's built to maximize exposure and impact of all the hard work and media and ad spend and time and open houses that someone's going to dedicate to your property. To have maximum effect in any kind of market, it's all about the strategic timing of when you bring all these elements together. When you create a dedicated timeline to how you're going to market a property, it does two things. Not only does it make everything more organized in terms of knowing when everything is going to occur, but it also creates what I like to refer to as marketing stickiness. So when we have a great targeted ad campaign that pairs with a broker's open just for agents, and then pairs with a public open house, strategic showings, a video release, social media campaign, paid media campaign, when all that combines together, it gets the right buyers in the right communities talking about the property, and it keeps it spinning in their mind to heighten activity and interest. If you did a campaign launch and let's say you had a open house and then a week later the video came out and then maybe a month later things are kind of slow, so you do an agent's open and then you work on a paid media campaign, all of that together is not going to work in harmony with each other, and it's going to feel like wasting a lot of money and time on not something that had its full effect. And this is why strategic timing is incredibly important when you want to bring a home to the market. So sit down with your advisor, make that timeline, and know exactly when each item is going to happen for your property. Now let's talk about the paperwork and the legal. So when you work with a real estate agent, you have a few different contracts that you could be working with. There is the multiple listing contract. So if you wanted to list your home in a traditional sense on the MLS, there's a contract that binds you to that agent, creates an agency relationship, meaning that the agent is responsible for certain duties and privileges and confidentiality that owes to you, the client specifically, as well as set forth commission and timing and other very important things. There's the exclusive listing, which means it's not going to be marketed on the multiple listing service. It's going to be just for you to sell. There's a separate contract for that oftentimes has a few other additional contracts like a fee agreement and sometimes additional privacy clauses. And then there's various scopes of paperwork that actually pertain to the listing of the home, from disclosure statements to releases to confidentiality and so on and so forth. The most important thing that I would advise everyone that I work with my clients as well is understanding what all the paperwork is right from the beginning in that first sit-down meeting when they agree to list the home. So there's no surprises of when all this paperwork comes out of the woodwork. And that includes the paperwork to actually complete the transaction. So here's what's gonna happen when we get an offer, here's what happens if we have 4 offers, here's what happens in the weeks that follow. Giving clients a full understanding of how the scope looks with paperwork and all the legalities behind actually transacting a home from the very beginning, that's gonna set them up to feel secure, to feel like they know what to expect, and to move the transaction along smoothly. So once we've done all the paperwork, once we've prepared the home, it's actually time to come to market. So this is when you want to start leveraging all the different online media outlets and SEO in order to build exposure for your property. When it comes to media, there's a variety of different formats. Of course, you always have your photography. Most people have a video. I always recommend video. 3D tours, walkthrough tours, there's a plethora of things that you can do. But the most important thing I want to cover today, because media could be a 30-minute video just in itself, but today I want to cover the importance of building a home for them, meaning that you have a digital web experience that you can drive traffic to that houses your beautiful video tour and your photos and everything about the listing that allows someone to see themselves living there. I call this the digital experience ecosystem for a listing, and it all comes back together when you look at your greater marketing ecosystem. So if we're going to have print advertising, if we're going to have targeted paid media advertising, organic social media, we all want to drive them somewhere so that they can interact with this property in a level that feels personal, feels complete, and gives them all the information they need. This is when it comes down to leveraging digital platforms. Most brokerages, my brokerage included, Engel & Volkers, has a phenomenal digital platform online that hosts the property as well as everything else I like to add for my personal business, which is that walkthrough guided tour, HD photos, 3D tour, all the above. I can host all that on a web page and drive all my traffic there. And additionally, you can also leverage SEO, meaning search engine optimization, having keywords that target different people looking for homes in Vancouver, adding keywords to the description that when people are searching for specific things like waterfront, Eagle Harbor. Things like that are well found throughout the description, throughout the videos, so that someone looking for that type of real estate is going to find it. This matters so much in the luxury space as well. And furthering that, using social media as the companion to give little snippets of this digital web experience to the masses, meaning that you can take a few different cuts of the video and maybe make 4 or 5 small videos, highlight different areas of the home, not just one just listed photo on Instagram. That's never enough when it comes to social media, and that's a very basic approach. You want to use social media to tell stories that further drives traffic to your digital listing experience. Let's talk about negotiation. Negotiation exists at all aspects of the transaction. It's not just simply when it comes down to price or terms. Negotiation starts with objection handling. And by objection handling, I don't mean used car salesman, gross sales, any of that. I mean simply being able to handle objections that come up from potential buyers about things that they're just not looking at correct. Like an example that I always use is if you're up on the bedroom level of a 3-story home and there's limited storage and a buyer might be upset about that and think it's a deal breaker, simply highlighting to them that the space required for that storage would have taken away from the gorgeous primary bathroom and soaker tub that they now have. Instead, just 1 floor down, they can find their linen storage and all the above. Just highlighting little changes like this is objection handling that can completely change the game when it comes to buyers viewing and discussing and considering the property. Negotiation, of course, continues when actual offers come on the table. And the thing about negotiation is that there's a million different books and strategies out there. I am very fascinated by it and do ample reading and study on the art of negotiation because ultimately it does make a big difference for what you get out of a transaction. For example, just recently I was working on a transaction that the apartment was in really, really rough shape. It needed a lot of help on the inside. We found some things with the home inspection that were actually physically broken, but we actually got a really great deal for the apartment. And originally the seller was like, we gave you a good deal because we don't want to do any of this. But through posing it to them and presenting the situation in a way that works for the sellers, we actually got them to amend the contract to pay for all the fixing of everything that was broken. And that comes from a competent negotiation strategy that relies on understanding what both parties want. Real estate is one giant problem solve. We have a problem of someone looking to sell a property. We have a problem of someone looking to buy a property. We have the problems of both of their disagreement on price. We have the problems of terms, all the above. If we can find creative solutions to fix those problems and find solutions, that's how you move a transaction forward. And oftentimes, there's a lot of things that people really want out of a transaction that they definitely don't tell you, but they don't necessarily think until you highlight it for them, until you tap into that, well, I know you really need to get this closed before the 1st of December, so we want to close first, we want to do that as well, but we're going to need this to happen, basically. So it's finding that middle ground to make sure that everyone gets what they want and find those non-negotiable items, find those fundamental terms, and go after them. In most cases, you never get what you want if you don't ask. Of course, there's a delicacy around that because sometimes you get to a point where you can't really ask anymore. But if you started the transaction on the right foot, you started the negotiation from the right page, then usually you've put yourself in a position to have that ask be covered and to get to a result that hopefully incorporates some of that original ask. Now let's talk about the industry. The one thing that's so funny about the real estate industry is that of course we're all licensed. Of course you have to go through a licensing course and do additional requirements and do maintenance education every 1 or 2 years and different professional development, but not all realtors are the same. Not all brokerages are the same. Not all service providers are the same. And that is clear as day when it comes to companies that offer like the 1% flat commission versus some other people are charging 5 or 6% commission. Usually that comes down to the quality of service as well as all the items and the actual work that goes in for you. If you want a baseline, bare bones real estate service and you're really confident your home can just fly off the shelf and sell multiple offers for way over asking price and you think that paying 1% to someone can make that happen, then go for it. But also in a lot of cases, you're gonna get what you pay for in that 1% category. There's also the people who think they can sell their homes themselves, which absolutely they legally can, and some people have great success with it. Then there's people like me who are full service real estate agents, real estate advisors, as we say at Engel & Volkers, because we really are advisors. We come to the table to offer a white glove service for people who want a luxury experience at every price point and who want to be guided through the process at a level to ensure they get the best terms, best price, and best timing for their home sale or purchase. There's a big difference between how I market a property and how I approach media and marketing and advertising campaigns in order to get you that exposure than other people do. Partly because I came from that background and I'm passionate about it, but also partly because that is the business model I operate, which is full service, white glove real estate agent. When you are interviewing real estate agents, or when you decide that you want to sell your home or buy a home and find an agent to work with, the most important thing for you always to ask specifics around how they're going to offer you service, how they're going to market your property, and make sure that you feel there's clear communication from the very beginning. Because if you feel like you're being communicated to clearly, you'll be much better off setting an agenda, setting a timeline, and knowing that you're going to know exactly what's happening at every step of the way and get to the finish line. There's nothing worse than people in this industry who do not communicate and who kind of bamboozle buyers because they don't, or sellers, because they don't expect things to happen and they get flustered because there's a lot of complexities in this process. You always have to keep that clear communication open with your clients. In recap, my key takeaways from this video are the importance of care and skill throughout the entire process. Not only in the preparation of a home and the marketing of a home, but in selecting an agent, the art of negotiation, contract writing, and all the above. When it comes time for you to sell a home, the biggest tip I could give you would be to make sure there's care and skill involved in every step of the way. Because that care and skill, when translated to all the fundamental aspects of selling a home, is going to result in you getting closer or exceeding the results that you expect. I would love to hear from you, so please leave a comment down below any questions that you have about the real estate process or anything that you would like me to explain from my lens and my expertise here in this business. I'd be honored to do a video answering some of those questions, so leave a comment down below. If you're new to the channel, I would love for you to subscribe so you can watch some of the property tours that we do from around Vancouver. It's super exciting making them, and I love sharing them with you. So if you subscribe, you'll be first notified every time we upload them. And with that being said, thank you for being here. My name is Cameron Phillips. I'm a real estate advisor with Engel & Volkers here in Vancouver. It was an honor to do this video for you today. If you ever have any questions personally about the real estate market, feel free to send me an email or give me a call. My contact information is below. Thanks so much for being here, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.